Wow, it's taking forever to go live. Hello. Hello, everybody. Go ahead, Abhishek.
Very good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. We see you logging in huge numbers. So that's excellent. If you can hear me and see us, quickly type a yes in the chat box. All the participants who are live already. A lot of you are joining in February. So please quickly drop in a yes so we know that we are speaking to you and ma'am and I are not talking to ourselves. That's very important for us to know because it has happened in the past with us.
Yeah, so if you can hear us and see us, please type a yes in the chat box. I love the lag. So, yes, yes. Thank you, Nita. Thank you, Kiana. All right, brilliant, brilliant, brilliant.
Perfect. That's great.
We've
That's
got
great.
two, Shagun, Super, Aman, hello. Yes, okay, we've got a whole bunch of yes. Thank you, Prachi.
Perfect. We have a
Awesome.
very exciting topic today that we're going to talk about, and I have two very distinguished panelists with me. So I'm very excited. I hope you are as well to learn and to know and interact with us. You by now, most of you know the drill, how to go about the webinar, but I'll quickly help you understand a few ground rules which you've always been following. Just a reminder. Please remember to maintain the decorum of the house. Please type in your questions in the chat box. The minor team is online. We'll keep answering them throughout the webinar. If you have any particular questions for Dr. Chatterjee and ma'am, we can take them up later as well and throughout the webinar. So please keep sending in your questions. We really like to see your interaction. And please make sure you respect I'm repeating myself, make sure there's no inappropriate use of language and we respect everyone in the audience. That's it. Otherwise, we are just waiting for a couple of more minutes and we can begin. In the meanwhile, I'll just introduce our distinguished panelists. First, I have the Vice Dean of the School of Architecture and Design from OP Jindal Global University, Professor Dr. Jaideep Chatterjee. Professor Chatterjee, also fondly known as Jaideep Swiss Army Knife Chatterjee, is an obsessive compulsive multidisciplinarian. Dr. Jaideep is an architect, a historian, and an anthropologist, with a doctorate in history of architecture and urbanism, and another one in sociocultural anthropology from Cornell University. Dr. Jaideep's academic inquiries traverse questions of design, visual culture, technopolitics, social formation of expertise, popular culture, and nationalism. His research on architects and design as a form of knowledge in post-colonial India has been published with prestigious academic presses worldwide. Dr. Jaideep has taught at several universities, including Cornell, the University of Cincinnati, and the University School of Architecture and Planning, Delhi. In addition to his academic pursuits, Dr. Jaideep also actively collaborates with designers, architects, artists, and filmmakers to work on many interdisciplinary projects. So we're glad to have you here again with us. Thank you so much. And of course, we have Ms. Shilpa Singh, a coach with a flair of humor and storytelling. Ms. Shilpa is an instant hit amongst hundreds of students. She passionately delivers career workshops too. Packing over 22 years of incredible work experience in career guidance, life coaching, HR management, and teacher training, Ms. Singh brings an holistic purview of the entire education and skill building spectrum from schools to organizations. Her youthful energy and enthusiasm is highly infectious and makes learning a fun endeavor. Thank you so much, ma'am, for joining us. And lastly, I'm Abhishek. Perfect. So I think, ma'am, we are good to begin with. We have a good number. Perfect.
Superb. Thank you so much, Abhishek, for that introduction and for introducing both of us. I'm very, very excited about this session as well for a number of reasons. One, because I think the topic is a very interesting one, which is in essence the umbrella of design, and also because my co-panelist Dr. Chatterjee is an excellent speaker, and I attended his last session, and I was really looking forward. So I'm looking forward to this session because I think I'm going to learn a lot as well. I learned so much about built environment in the last one, and I really wanted to sign up for that course. So I'm looking forward to sign up for the course that you're talking about now as well. What I want to talk about, and in essence, is so when we talk about design and we think about design, to a lot of us and to a lot of parents as well, and a lot of students, the first thing that comes to mind when we say design is initially in the first part of like the first 5 years, like 5 or 10 years ago, it used to be only fashion that came to mind. Then now, because we've got more technology and we're seeing the world that is opened up for us through streaming channels and through everything else in terms of our worlds becoming much smaller, we're now talking about animation and graphics also. But we forget that when it comes to design, every single thing that you have and every single thing that you own is designed, and it's designed by someone, and it's designed for a reason. Now there can be good design and there can be bad design, and that's a separate discussion altogether as to what is good design and what constitutes good design or bad design. But a lot of organizations over the years have made it interesting for design to come to the forefront. So, for example, when it comes to electronics, where it came to from the radio to the telephone to the evolution of the telephone, if you look at it, and you look at an organization like an Apple, where intrinsically at the base of their creation of a product was design, and the clean element of design, the ease of how a user is going to interact with this design. So just and like every solution finder, so whether it's an entrepreneur or a doctor or a civil engineer or an engineer or a mechanical engineer, anything, design inherently, more than anything, is finding solutions. And so there are a number of things that happen when we're looking at the evolution of design and we're looking at what it means. So what I want to talk about, the fact that design becomes an important element, and it's synonymous with solution finding. Then there are certain secrets to design that I want to be able to talk about, and the certain secrets to design that I want to talk about is, of course, we end up saying that what does it mean to be able to design something. So what I'd like everyone to be able to do, and I want to do this as a very quick exercise, and I hope not to take too much time, but at the top left-hand corner, you see what is actually a juicer. All right, it's something to allow you to take like a juice out of an orange or a lemon or whatever. I'd like you to tell me what it reminds you of. I'd like you to be able to tell me what does it remind you of, like in the everyday world that you exist, or every other element. So land, sea, air. What does this remind you of? I just try and put that down in the chat box for me for a bit, and I just want to get an idea on that. So and I'll continue talking about the other elements, so I get that. Okay, a spider, yeah, okay. So Nina gets reminded of a spider, superb. So almost everyone is getting spider. Now I'm getting arachnophobia. Okay, great. Okay, all right. So we've got a spider, so great. So I'm seeing that you have a spider coming through, an insect, a robot, okay, super claw or a spider. Great. So this product is designed by a designer named Philippe Stark. And if you check him out on TED, he's got some brilliant talks, and you should listen to that. His inspiration for actually creating this juicer for a company was the squid, the sea creature, the squid. And so, how did he get inspired? He got inspired when he was out for dinner one day, and he was having squid, and he looked at it and he said, "Oh wow, it looks like this." And then that's how he went and designed the first design and prototype for this. So that will lead me to what I want to talk about in a minute. The second element of design is to be able to make life simpler. One of the most common things you will deal with if you're going to be able to hand out food to anybody, or you're looking at a birthday party, or everybody, we've all been to the birthday party when we were allowed to have birthday parties. When you've been to a birthday party where you don't get the equal slice of cake, or you don't get the equal slice of food that's been there, like a pizza or whatever. So what if you were to able to get something that allowed you to be able to do that, to allow you to be able to get the right size and everything gets distributed equally? Or the fact that you can work from home, which we're doing now, and the left-hand corner at the bottom is something called Office Pod, which is something that you can actually hook onto your car and drive around and take it somewhere else if you move house. A simple scale that allows you to measure different types of pasta and how many people you're cooking for. So all of those things are just in terms of, or how something's going to look in terms of a building, which gives you a sense of space. Which you'll notice that a lot of restaurants put lots of mirrors up to be able to give you a larger sense of space. But design at the base of it is about being able to look at things differently. Okay, so you need to be able to look at things very differently. I'd like everyone to do a very quick exercise. I'd like everyone to kind of go like this, and I'm not going to slap anybody, okay, because I know that's what's supposed to happen when you do this. You want everyone to do this, and I want everyone to be able to then take their palm and place their hand like this. Okay, you'll be doing also. So I know everybody in lots of places are doing this right now. Bear with me, I know what I'm doing. Okay, turn it around. I want you to shut one eye, whichever eye you like. And the eye that's open, I want you to be able to start bringing your hand closer and closer and closer to your face. And once you've done that, what is it that you see? You'll have to stop doing it when you when you could type it out for me. But what is it that you see, right? When you brought your hand all the way close to your eye and you've done this, what is it that you see? If you've done it correctly, you'll probably see your palm and you'll see only that, right? That is one particular way of looking at the world. So most likely you see nothing. A designer looks at the world not like this or like this, but like this. So a designer is about vision that is broad in nature. A designer is about looking at more and then focusing on detail. A designer is about looking at and noticing things, that the different things. So in animation, it's about noticing the fact that animated characters need to blink, otherwise they don't look human. Or it's about realizing that when somebody's hair moves in the wind, what it looks like, or when clothing ruffles, what it looks like. And it's all about noticing and seeing. So if you're the kind of person, and it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be the most outstanding painter or the most outstanding artist, but design appear only in that. Your design can be related to curriculum. Your design can be related to designing a workshop. Your design can be related to a product. It can be related to a way of doing something. It can be a way of interacting in a user interface. The design is everywhere. So if you're interested in a career in design, you do need to be able to think beyond fashion. And fashion is an outstanding space to get into, don't get me wrong. But there is so much more. There is so much more to design that you have opportunities. And it's important for you, therefore, to be able to remember that each one of us could possibly be somebody who has design thinking if only we look at the world a little differently. And that was a large part of what I wanted to be able to cover. So, Abhishek, are you on track with where we're at? Yes. Okay.
Absolutely, ma'am.
Over to you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. And that's a very good context you set. So I first, before I move forward, I want to quickly recap on three most important points that ma'am has mentioned. And everyone who's listening, the first point was, as a designer, I'm supposed to look at things in a broader perspective. I need to, enhance my perspective and look just beyond my own vision. So the point is, I'm not looking straight, but I'm looking wider. But that being said, I have to be very sure. I have to look closer. That means I have to be very precise, because even the smallest of glitches can, miss out on an opportunity. And I'll come to that. And the last thing is noticing. And that is one of the biggest takeaways about design. Now I'll give you an example. Literally, I think I thank ma'am for that as well. Ma'am just shared a TED talk with me a couple of days ago by Mr. Tony Fidel. And those of you who don't know or resonate with the name, he is the man behind who was primarily working with Steve Jobs at the time. He's an American engineer working for the iPod, the iPhone, and major innovations. He's an investor, innovator, a coach now. And he goes on to share an example that how design can change and make life convenient for people. I know most of you here are from the Gen Z. We are the older ones who are talking to you today. But the idea is you might not be able to think about the kind of inconvenience or kind of things that we're missing out. One such example is that back in the day, in the early 90s or early 2000s, every gadget that used to come out everybody used to get excited. And I personally love gadgets. So we used to go down to the store and buy a gadget, take the entire journey. But there was a problem. Whenever we used to get the gadget, there was a sticker which says, please charge the battery before use. And nobody was paying attention to that fact in particular. Now imagine if, every time you get that excitement and buying the product, but you have to wait another while, which seems like eternity, you have to charge the product before use. But wait a second, Steve Jobs and his team were like, okay, we cannot keep doing this because we have to make life convenient for people. And that is when we came up with an idea that when we are introducing a product or we are having a new product out, we'll make sure the battery is charged. They came up with a solution for that. And rest, as we say, is history. Everyone started doing that. And now every product we buy, it comes charged, be it any gadget in particular. We don't have to wait all the time, another 15, half an hour or 1 minute or 1 hour for that matter to charge the product. That is about noticing things which cannot be seen as well. So noticing things which are invisible. And that is the point of design. You have to be present and observe what is happening around you. That's one important element of design. Everything that happens around you, ma'am was pointing about the juice maker, or you see a pizza there. It's just about how you can make life convenient. Now, very interesting thing about design is we often tend to confuse art and design together. Now, I wouldn't say a designer is not an artist. I feel every designer is an artist because they are not only creating something, but innovating as well. And the word innovation is something which differentiates an artist from a designer, for the very simple reason because a designer not only ideates or has a creative idea or instinct, they go on to create something out of it which will solve a problem or innovate something or bring convenience into a person's life. And now this designer can be a product designer, an automobile designer, an interior designer, fashion designer, anything. Any person who has the vision to identify a problem or a gap and can fulfill that gap is a designer. For example, right now, I know I hate even using the name of the dreadful pandemic we're going through, but we all know one of the biggest manufacturers in the world for automobile is Mercedes, one of the major manufacturers. What they did was they went on to collaborate with the university in the UK. What they did was they came up with a remote ventilator, which saved so many lives. Now imagine an automobile designer thought of creating something which will help people for the longest time. And now he's just sold the patent for that. An automobile designer, just listen to that and understand. He went on to create a ventilator, which is pocket friendly, this much in size, and can solve problems. That is how a designer innovates and creates things which one might not. And that is what differentiates them. But what is important? Why is design so important? The first thing you see here is aesthetic. Of course, we as humans, really like things which are appeasing to our eyes. Whenever we see something, which we say it's beautiful, it's gorgeous, it looks nice. And for the very simple reason, why is design an important element of aesthetic? Can anyone answer that? Why do you think aesthetics matter in design? I mean, of course, if I'm making a product, it is doing the job. But why is it important for something to be aesthetically pleasing? Anyone can try. It's a very simple answer. There's no right or wrong answer. Sound okay. Ma'am, is my sound getting lost?
No, you're okay.
No, okay,
I think it may be overall network issues. So look and feel, ergonomics, okay. Ergonomics, nice. I like it.
That's interesting. Eye catching. Perfect. I actually, perfect. To attract eye catching. Actually, eye catching I was looking for. As humans, this is a matter of fact, our attention span is pretty low. Unless, we get to know the functionality of something, we don't realize it. But how will I even stop for a second and admire or recognize something unless it's, appealing to me? That is why aesthetic is so important for design. Be it a building or a car or a piece of cloth, anything I'm talking about. Literally any kind of product I'm looking at. It literally needs to have that edge. That is why aesthetic is one of the most important things for any design. Absolutely, comfort comes important. Imagine, I'm sitting on a chair, I'm not comfortable. It will be so difficult for me to speak to you for 1 hour. I'll be jumping from my seat. So I cannot force my design on someone. It's very important for something to be comfortable as well. That comes to the next point, function. Whatever I'm doing, whatever I'm creating, it needs to be functionally viable. Now imagine, let's say, if a Ferrari is launching a car in India, the car might be doing a whole different job together in Italy, but in India, in a particular small town, if I have potholes, the car won't function. So as a designer, I will come up with better ways to protect the car, and that can go for anything. I gave an example of a chair. I mean, if I'm using the chair in a lounge or an office, it changes the purpose. I cannot keep the same chair I have in an airport lounge at home because that will take so much space. I'd rather create something, which doesn't take that much space, but is as comfortable, if not more. So functionality of a product or any kind of design is so important. Imagine you creating a door for a building and you don't know how to go about it and you get confused and keep running into the door again and again. That just defeats the purpose of anything. And of course, experience. Now, I cannot emphasize on this enough, and I'll just come to the second point when I talk about how technology is important in design, is experience. Any kind of product we sell or any kind of a designer has to go out of just think from a client's perspective and anticipate what would a client or a customer prefer. Because if the customer doesn't have a good experience with the product or whatever I'm creating for them, then it's highly likely they won't be happy with it or will never come back. Their attention is lost. And that goes in any possible industry. Like ma'am was talking about communication design. If I'm creating a particular set of curriculum or set of communication, and I'm not able to convey about my product to my audience or my clientele, my purpose is lost. It has to literally be, people should be able to connect and resonate with that. The experience is also very important. Whatever I might be doing. If I'm taking a flight and my experience is horrible, I will never take that flight again. It's just that obvious. So these are some of the most important elements of design. Now, design formula. To be very honest, I don't really think there can be a formula for design because it's literally each to its own. It varies with the kind of designer and the kind of innovation I have in mind. But one basic thing about design is there has to be a concept and production. If I have a concept in mind, I have to ideate and work on that and bring that into reality. If I'm thinking of creating a product, it has to go to manufacturing or creation. I mean, if I'm planning out a city or a building, there has to be a structure. The next thing is I have to plan and test it out. If we launch a product or anything that I've designed, it has to be tested. Even the vaccines they're creating now, there's been so much surge about the kind of human trials being happening and if that will be approved. And of course, the feedback is always important because I think nothing in the world is perfect and we can always improve. So that's the idea. Next thing we'll talk about is something very interesting, that's integration with technology. Now, you will be surprised to know that even though a lot of professionals and industries have gone obsolete and redundant, and so many people have lost their jobs, precisely 29.5 million Indians around the world lost their jobs during this horrible pandemic, but a lot of industries emerged. So I was listening to an interview by Mr. Imran Ahmed, who is the founder and CEO of Business of Fashion. He was talking about the kind of jobs that will come up in the domain of design in general. So then he mentioned something about just because people are shopping and buying things or seeing or viewing things virtually, that has created a new profession called virtual design. That means if I am, showing a particular product to my clientele online or virtually, there has to be a particular set of design to show that. It cannot be that general because end of the day, my clientele is already used to a particular set of viewing the product or whatever I have to offer. It has to stay standard, but in an innovative way, virtually through technology. Speaking of web design, I think this is nothing new. It just has evolved and improved over time. It has become all the more accessible and convenient because from having a computer screen which is attached to a power or a CPU, now we have wearable technology. So web design is available. If we get a message, we see it literally on our hands. So web design has taken manifold graphic designers become a part of it. Product design I've already spoken about. It's just about how you can, like ma'am was talking about this earlier as well. How can we make our product more convenient, more viable? And again, communication design will just get better simply because technology is taking over, be it virtual reality, augmented reality. How we communicate with clients, how we communicate with people about the product is changing faster than we anticipated because things we were planning out for the year 2025 have fallen into action now because the situation demanded and needed it. So that is how technology will be a major component of design. I'm sure Dr. Chatterjee will shed a lot of like more light towards it. One small element I want to shed light on is psychology. We all know psychology is a very pervasive and interesting domain, but that being said, psychology is underlying in any form of design in every possible way. Because if I'm talking about aesthetic, I'm looking at color, the creation, where I'm placing a product is as important as well. That can go for maybe a building in particular or anything else. For example, if I'm looking at this is a very even if I'm designing a luxury boutique for that matter, there's a particular reason things are placed in a particular order. So the placement is an important aspect as well. And that's just one example. Even if I'm designing a classroom for a particular school, there will be a particular distance between, the board, the projector, the students, how they're placed in the classroom. Similarly, form and space are important components. Psychology is all about anticipating what my what so the example is I'm creating something for you, any of the students, right? And I have to think for a second that whatever I'm creating, how will that be useful and viable for you? Because if I'm not stopping for a second and thinking about it, my product is anyways doesn't hold a value because I'm not solving a problem. I have to think out of the box, be a divergent person, and figure out how my product will be viable. And psychology comes into play, even though that might seem subtle, but it's present. And quickly, I know everyone is waiting to hear from Dr. Chatterjee. I quickly want to walk you through the kind of courses that are available for students in design. Right after class 12, students you can look at a bachelor's in design, a BSc in design, a bachelor of fashion technology. That's only in particular if you're looking at fashion and designing as a domain. But or you can do a dual degree because a lot of colleges in India and abroad offer that. That's the BDES plus MDES. Now, the procedure of getting in, I'll explain shortly. Most of the universities will look at an entrance exam, all the best schools in India and abroad as well. Um, I'm not going to go on the list because those are all available on Mind the website. But some of you who are already graduates and looking at a master's or a postgrad, this is some of the options available for you, like a master's in design. The course name can be anything. It can be an MA in design or master's in design in MSc, but the course structure is primarily the same. Of course, if I want to further do research in design, I can go and do a doctorate as well. Lastly, I was speaking about the entrance criteria. Now, these are some things that you are tested upon. You have aptitude tests, which test you on your design and creative ability, logical ability, communication skills. There's situation tests as well, and also a personal interview. These are some of the elements that they look for when you're preparing for a design school. Now, without further ado, Dr. Chatterjee, I would like you to take the floor and share your vision about the world of design. So I think you are
You're mute.
Okay, now I can. All right, can you hear me now? Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much, Shilpa. Thank you so much, Abhishek. That was very informative. If I can add a few things onto there, I hope you will not mind. First is that, Abhishek, into your slide of design courses, I would actually include Bachelors of Architecture. Like BArt is a design course. You know what I mean?
Of course.
And in fact, we have actually now created a design course which is actually a Bachelor of Arts in Design, right? So I think the course list is a little more expanded. The degree list is a little more expanded, right? All right. So having said that, let me start off with a couple of things. Firstly, thank you all for being here. It is a pleasure. I know it's always tough to come on to these webinar kind of things, and especially all of us are getting flooded with a lot of these online. So, all right. Having said that, what I would like to do is share one slide with all of you, right? What that is actually, it's part of something called the India Design Report. This is something that a lot of my colleagues and I was also obliquely involved in. Let me show you that slide, and I want to give you an idea of the overall design situation or scenario that is there in India now. All right. So give me a second while I share that slide with you. All right. Just give me a second. All right. No, wrong slide. Hang on. I can't see it from. Just one second. Just bear with me, please. For some reason, I'm not being able to see the slide that I want to show you.
No problem, sir. That's completely fine.
Let's see. Cancel it. It should show me that version, right? Application windows. Huh. I wonder what's happening. Just give me a second. Sorry, I apologize again for it.
No problem, sir. You can take your time. No problem.
Are you able to see the slide?
Yes, sir.
All right, wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much. What you see in front of you, every one of you, are two interesting graphs. The first one is what's called the design industry distribution in the country. Now, this is, as I said, part of something called the India Design Report. And on your right, you have something called the geographical distribution of the design industry. All right, so now look at this graph that is in front of you. And it tells you in percentages what is the number of distribution of companies of design, right? So, and it's divided according to architectural design, interiors, landscape, furniture, fashion, graphic, animation, new media, industrial, automotive, retail, allied, which are called toy, set, and all of that. Then there's something called human-computer interaction, which in fact now has gotten much larger, and it includes things like virtual design that you just mentioned, but also includes things like UI, UX, and all of that. Now, what's interesting is that if you see in India, one of the largest, right, sort of design companies that are there are actually industrial design, automotive design, and retail design. All right, this is about 25%. And then 20% of the companies in this country are actually graphic design graphic design, right? Now, why I'm trying to show you this slide and why I find this very, very interesting is because at some level, this actually is not a representation of the amount of work that is out there. Now, this is what I want to talk to you all about. Now, for example, we are actually one of the lowest producers of
So we
industrial.
cannot see the slide anymore. I think the slide has gone.
Okay, can you not see this? Can you see the
Yes,
slide?
yes.
All right. Now, okay. So, all right. Now, we have an inordinately high number of companies who are actually working on industrial design, automotive design, and retail design, whereas we are one of the smallest producers of these things in the world. Right? Very interestingly, and this is where I am actually a little more qualified to talk about, is both architecture, interior, and what I call the larger built environment, where only 19% of companies are there. Whereas this is the largest environment for designers in the world, right? In fact, I don't know if some of you were there for my previous talk that I had. I gave one piece of information, which was this, that over the next 5 years or so, that is till 2025, the country, India, is supposed to present, right, is supposed to sort of invest close to $1.4 trillion and create 44 million jobs in that domain. Right, so it's very interesting what's happening in our country in terms of where and how we are doing. And you know, this thing started off with fashion, going beyond fashion. And here I want to show you another very interesting slide, which will give you an idea. All right, so just bear with me. I'm going to share this again with you. All right, now here, all right. Just let me know if you can see the slide.
We can, sir. We can.
Now look at fashion design in this case. Right? Now, very interesting is we don't actually have information of about 55% of fashion designers who graduate, whether they are even employed or not. Right, so that's very interesting. Even though this data is there, what we don't know is what are those who are actually graduating from fashion doing. Whereas let's look at the other disciplines, which is very, very interesting. Okay, so in something like architectural design, 46% of the designers who graduate actually work on independent. So they start their own firms. Whereas 54%, right, 54% are employed with other companies. Now, interior design, again, very interesting. And there are reasons for this, and I'll come to that. All right. Independent, mostly 1% of them, employed about 11%. And again, 87% we don't know. Right. Fashion, I already told you, 55% we don't know. But look at graphic design. 13% of the people start their independent firm. 87% of the people are actually employed in firms. Animation, new media, 10 and 90%. Industrial design, 11 and 89%. Allied design, which is toy, set, exhibition design, design research, 12 and 88%. And human computer interactions, 1% on them, 32% are employed. Now, the reason I'm trying to show you this and kind of bring this to your attention is that what's very interesting is that when we do go out after our graduation, what are the big job prospects out there, right? And what you will notice is, you know, while everybody, and you know, Shilpa also started with that in India, the thing seems to have been fashion. That's not the largest number of where people are getting employed. That's what's very interesting, right? The larger number of people that are getting employed are actually the other design fields, right? And not only that, what you're also seeing at the same time is that depending on how higher your expertise is as a designer, the more chance you actually have on getting employed with what are called companies, as opposed to starting your own firm, right? I want to share with you sort of one last slide, which will give you an idea of, before I move on to something else that I want to talk about, which is, just bear with me for a second, please, which is that what is the geographic distribution of design services? Now, this is also very, very crucial. All right. Okay. Hang on for a second. Yes, share, and select that, share. All right. Now, can you see this? Can you see the screen, please?
Right, sir. You can.
All right. So what you have in front of you are names about 15 to 20 cities. That is the only places where the existing, almost the majority of the design firms in this country are. This is actually an incredible piece of information. This is true for almost, and if we look at the subdivisions of design firms and design professionals, this is actually terrifying. Because what we mean is, out of a city of approximately, out of a country of about 130 crores, designers are only working in about 15 to 20 cities. That's it. Right? So you can imagine where the growth really is. What we've got to realize is that the growth in India in terms of design is really not so much in any of the metropolitan cities anymore. They are not. I can talk very specifically about architecture and interiors and the built environment, which I'm a little more familiar with. I don't have the exact numbers for the other things, but let me tell you a bit about this. Now, India at present has about 45,000 registered architects, right? Now, what is very interesting is this, that out of those 45,000, about 38 to 39,000 architects are actually located in 10 metro cities. That's it. Right? So they are actually saturated. The interesting thing is that where you have a lot of scope is what we call the tier 2, tier 3 cities in India today. Right? And that's what we really need to look at, both in terms of any form of design that you want to think of, whether it is fashion, whether it is retail, whether it is architecture, whether it is interiors, whether it is built, anything, right? So the idea is we've got to get out of this very closed mindset that we have had in terms of design, right? We have got to realize it, and there was a wonderful introduction that you gave, Shilpa, when you said design is everywhere, right? One of my own faculty members used to tell me, well, you know, Joydeep, when you get up in the morning and the night before, if you've kept your slippers on the side where you're going to get off from, that is design. Right? It's like you said, it's anticipating, thinking ahead, and knowing what to do. Right? Given if this is the understanding of design that we have, we are going to realize that actually, up until now in India, we have had a very, very limited idea of design. Right? In fact, today at the JSA, we had this interesting webinar where we had a scholar come in from something called the Hyderabad Urban Labs. And one of the discussions we had started having was that, all right, if we are having the COVID situation, what has that done to jobs in the cities, right? And the discussion that we had was this. I'll give you another very interesting statistics. Do you know, in the United States of America, you know, another country I'm sort of very familiar with, the state, the government employs about 26% of designers. 26% of design. In India, it is close to 1.5%. So here is actually another domain where we designers need to start thinking about. We need to start talking to the government, figuring out, because trust me, everything requires design, as you said, whether it is a park, a public area, right? Whether it is whether it is the signpost that is going out. In fact, one of the biggest areas of design nowadays is something called wayfinding. Wayfinding means essentially finding your way around anything. Whether it be a computer software that you're looking at, or it be a building that you're entering, right? Or it be a kind of museum that you are seeing, an exhibition that you're going to, or you're driving in the streets. We, for example, in India, have not even developed a proper system of communicating to our drivers when they are driving. So what I guess what I'm trying to kind of bring to all your attention is this, that in India especially, right, we have lagged behind in terms of understanding the application of design severely. Severely. You know, part of this has really got to do with how our parents, my parents, and somehow I'm actually a little surprised, I have to say, a lot of parents I find today who are also thinking that they're still stuck to whether it's engineering, doctor, and law. And I keep telling people, and you know, I ask parents, I say, do you know which is the fastest growing profession in the world? And they're like, what, medicine? I'm like, no, you're mistaken. They'll say, no, law. I said, no, 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 you're mistaken. They'll say, what else? I say, you know, it's actually designing events. That's the fastest growing profession in the world. Right? So this is what's very, very interesting. We are still stuck with some of the older ideas which come to, so everybody will either know fashion or at most they will know product design. Right? But you have to realize that the world of design extends far, far, far beyond that. Abhishek mentioned the question of technology, right? Let me give you a very interesting information. Do you know who is the major, this is a question and I want all of you to try and answer this. Do you know which is the major sector that actually hires architects and interior designers today? Any guesses? Do you think it's the construction industry? I'm just curious. You can take a guess too. Shilpa, you're good to go. You can take a guess too.
I think event planners. I think you said event planners.
No, which industry? So, no,
which industry?
Which industry hires?
Architects and
interior designers, urban designers. Which is the industry that hires them the most?
It's not an industry. I would say the government does.
Actually, you'll be surprised. Okay, food.
Okay, Robert. Okay, no way. Now I'm getting challenged when I have to figure this out.
Some good guesses.
Okay, somebody's saying food industry. Somebody's saying event. Somebody's saying event.
Product. Excellent. All interesting and excellent guesses. But the answer is this. The answer is actually the gaming industry.
Wow, nice. Esports.
Guess why? Do you realize that every game that you play is set in some environment?
Oh, nice. Very cool.
Who is best suited to design environments? Those who design environments in real life.
How cool is that? Okay, that's nice. All right.
Yeah. So what I'm trying to tell you is that the world out there has really changed. Right? When you are doing something like architecture today, don't think that you're going to actually go and sit and work in an architect's office. No, you're not. You're not. You are actually going to be working on designing virtual environments. Right? Because we all just imagine the number, the kind of the amount of time that we spend in front of our computers today. Right? Whether it's a smartphone, or our laptops or a pad or anything. In fact, our lives are mediated by technology like never before, right? And so the one thing that I want to tell you, and this is sort of the last thing that I want to tell you, and then I'm going to stop, and there were a lot of questions and all coming up, is when you are thinking of a design career, right? What I want you to think, and I want you to and when you do your research for colleges and schools and things like that, what I want you to think about is this. Which are the kind of programs which are giving you a broader skill set rather than a narrower skill set? Which are the programs which are giving you interdisciplinary skill sets rather than a specific disciplinary skill set? Right? Because these are actually what the future is going to look like. I'm going to end with a little quote that actually happened as part of the webinar that we were doing at the JSA today, right? So let me just pull it up because I wrote it down. I thought it was so wonderful what was there, right? So just give me a second. Okay. This is what was said. The world has a way of sorting itself about. And given the kind of things that we are facing today, we are looking at a future where there is no durability to any job. This is a reality.
Very true.
Please understand this. What that means is we have to graduate from places with the most flexible and broad-based skill set that we can get, so that we can, in a very interesting way, combine these things in order to solve problems that we have not even thought of today.
Absolutely.
Right. So that's where I would like to stop. If you have questions, please
so
feel
actually
free.
I do. In fact, that's a very interesting thing you said. I want to actually ask you a question on that note, like you said about a flexible curriculum. Can you please shed some light on the design curriculum at JSA to help us understand better what a prototype of that would look like?
Do you mind if I share a couple of slides?
No, of course not. Of course, please do.
With you, so just give me a moment to open it up. But what I mean is, look, let me while the slides are opening up, let me give you an example. So let's say till about 10 years ago, all right, when you thought of doing BA honors in India, what did you do? You said, I will either do English honors, or I will do sociology honors, or I will do psychology honors. But then about 10 years ago, everybody suddenly realized, oh, there's something called a BA liberal arts, right? Which has been there all over the world for a very long time. Now, what does a liberal arts degree do? It gives you a basic grounding in the social sciences, right? And in some amount of sciences. Then it says you get a major, but you also get a minor. Now, what is happening is you're getting a broader idea, you're getting a core area of expertise, as well as you're getting certain other minor areas of expertise. Now, obviously, you're going to be an incredibly, what can I say, diverse and flexible person who will know how to make combinations between different knowledge systems, right? So that is what I mean by having a kind of a, what's called a very diverse program set, all right? Now I'm just going to turn to the JSAA and tell you about one such program, and hopefully this will help us a bit, right? So just give me a moment while I share the screen. All right. Now, all right. Can you see the screen?
Yes, sir. We can.
All right. So let me just go full screen on this, and then it'll give you an idea. All right. So now look, this is a certain program that we have in something called community planning and development. It's a design program. It's a 3+1 4-year program that is there. Let's see how this program works. All right. So if you see, you have not only what's called the ateliers, which give you a lot of project-based learning. We do a lot of live projects in this. You know, students can go ahead and design little communities, and they actually go ahead and sort of redesign little buildings for people, or they'll go and redesign a park for people, or they'll redesign a neighborhood. Somebody actually designed an app which could bring together the consumers, the state, and all the agencies like NDMC, and how they could all work together. But then, in addition to that, you take what are called a lot of pathway seminars. But also, what is very important now, in addition to that, is something called a minor concentration requirement. Now, what is this minor concentration requirement? I just want to go to that slide, for example. Right? Just give me a second. Now, at the JSA, for example, we have 10 minors for our students to choose from. So let's say if you're in the architecture program or in the community planning and development program, what we are saying is that please realize, if you need to make a difference in your neighborhood park today, you need to understand that you cannot do this without looking at policy. You cannot do this without looking at law. You cannot do this if you don't understand how finance works, right? So what we are telling our students is that, yes, get your design degree. Excellent, wonderful, but get a minor program, right? Now the minor programs, so there are these like 10 kinds of minor programs that you can do, right? So you could possibly do a bachelor's in interior design, but let's say do a minor in journalism and communication and become an interior environment journalist, for example. You could combine a degree in architecture with economic and policy studies. Don't remain only as an architect, but go and work for something like the United Nations Development Project, right? So the idea is really this, Abhishek, that you can at the end of the day, right, sort of become this multi-pronged person who can
Absolutely.
go out into the world and place yourself very differently from others, right?
Very true.
So all the 40 students or the 60 students who are graduating from our program, each one of them is different, right? Each one of them
Absolutely.
is saying, yeah, I'm an interior designer, but then what? Hey, you know what? I
Right.
actually also have a degree in infrastructure studies, right? So I can now work in a kind of firm which is at the intersection of infrastructure and design. Suddenly, I'm not limited by something, right? So that's kind of the way this is imagined. But there's another advantage to the minor that is there. So what is very interesting is oftentimes, and I have many examples of our students who have done things like this. So you start off with, let's say, an area of interest, right? So you say, okay, I am really interested in becoming an architect. Wonderful. But then the minor gives you, but you are also at the same time, let's say, very interested in the question of how do people use their environment. So let's say you get a minor in sustainability and environment studies.
Okay.
But then as you're progressing, and because you're doing more than 24 credits, you also become eligible to do a master's in that course or a PhD in that course going ahead, right? So what this does is also position you and keep your options open, right? Where do you want to go? Because, as I'm fond of saying, the world out there does not come with problems labeled on them, saying I can only be solved by this person. No, it doesn't, right? As the world is changing, right, we have to become adaptable. A couple of years ago, the Wall Street Journal came up with a fantastic quote. He said, the problems of tomorrow are going to be solved by people who are working with knowledge that we don't have, and with expertise that we can't even imagine. So what we have to give as educators to our students is not really a set syllabus, right? But an
Right.
attitude, a value system, a way to look at the world, like Shilpa and you were saying, right? What we need to give you is a way to look at the world. And the more diverse the way to look at the world is, the better you will be able to adapt to it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I
So,
think
go
so.
ahead.
That's very well put. In fact, I was just thinking by the second you mentioned about development, I was like, okay, I have these domains. I can look at consulting. I can look at becoming an analyst, and
Yeah.
they're all there. I'm not talking about something which out of the box. This is not something new or
Absolutely.
unique. It's just
Yeah.
there. Absolutely. That's a very beautiful way of putting
I
it.
will tell you something. You talked about this, okay? Till about a few years ago, nobody was trying to work on what's called GIS, that is Geographic
Right. Right.
Information
Right.
Systems. Nowadays, this another part of technology that has gotten integrated with design. GIS and what is called spatial analytics is one of the biggest fields that's exploding. Let me
Yeah.
give you an idea of what spatial analysts do. Spatial analytics, what are they kind of mapping today? They are mapping how disease is actually spreading through cities. So this is a fantastic, they are so much in demand
Right.
right now,
Right.
it's not funny.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's very true.
They are figuring out how viruses move across space. Right? And who are the people who are doing this? These are actually geographers
Design.
and architects, who are people who
Yeah.
are trained as geographers and architects. Right? So the kind of combinations that are happening in the world today is mind-boggling, right? So my
Absolutely.
sense to everybody, and this is my it's almost a request to everybody, that at an undergraduate level, you want to look at programs that give you a breadth of knowledge, that allow you to make interesting combinations. Don't get straight-jacketed right at the beginning. My own career is a bit of an example of that, right? So I started off as an architect, and again in India, that's what I started. I did my program, but I found the programs here very, very limiting. So I went off to the United States, which is what most of us do. Those who want to go, that we want to do something new and exciting, we say, okay, we have to go outside and do it, right? And once I went to the US, the interesting thing that struck me was I could take a course anywhere in my master's program. while I joined architecture, right? So I ended up doing a master's in cultural studies, a master's in history and theory. When I went into, my PhD, I started taking courses in anthropology, philosophy, and history of architecture. I ended up doing a PhD in those two. So that's why I said I'm an architect, a historian, and an anthropologist. And I combine all three of them in my work, right? I look at how buildings work, but I also look at histories and I look at culture and society constantly.
Mm.
Right? So the idea really is, how diverse can you be now? It's a flip from what the world was in the early part of the 20th century, where it was all about specialization, specialization, specialization. Even, I mean, let me tell you, medical specializations are going out nowadays again. Medical specializations are, you'll be surprised. Today, one of the biggest kind of jobs that are there for mathematicians are actually statisticians mapping cancer statistics.
Yeah.
Right.
Bioinformatics is a huge
Bioinformatics.
Which I was going to say, which then is getting mapped onto what architects and geographers do called geoinformatics.
Correct.
So biology, geology, all of this is coming together.
Right.
The world gone somewhere else. Right. Sorry.
Absolutely.
Right. Go ahead.
So, you have anything to share? Any other last bit?
No, I think what Dr. Chavik said very correctly is at the undergrad level, look at width in terms of the course, and we're talking about multidisciplinary. We, I think, even gone to a new level where it has become interdisciplinary, where you've gone even further into your own discipline to get into spaces and explore that even further, and so inter and multi is separate, but we've also just gone within as well to be able to find out more. But I would like to be able to tell people that it's just not at the college level that you need to look at breadth. I think starting from school level, you need to be able to build that view of being able to look at everything. So you could be a science student, and I say this, so a lot of the people who are on here who had me at a webinar in school will know that I'll say this, that you might be a science student, you could be an economics student, you could be a commerce student or a humanities student. If you're not reading widely, if you're not learning about the world, you're not learning about how how things are interconnected and how one thing will impact so many others, you're not going to be able to understand the sheer amount of opportunity that you have available to you. So you'll be an artist who'd get hired by a Google to design wireframes because you're the one who understands exactly what it is that's required. And that's why it's very, very important to be able to look at breadth. And I think to a large extent our traditional national universities, sadly, as amazing as they are as institutions and as robust as they still are with really great faculty, and now catching on to the fact that the breadth has to be there. And I think that's a good sign, and I think our education system is doing that. So I'll have to stop it because that's my soapbox. As I get on the employability and multidisciplinary soapbox, will be here forever. So I'm going to have to stop on that one. But this is, you have to. So if you don't understand that geography is connected to mythology, to mathematics is connected to music, to the fact that language is connected to how we view the world, you can't understand the sheer scope of what's available.
If you would permit me, I'll share an interesting sort of anecdote with you. Artists, we think that artists, have, all they do is part of their artwork. Okay. Let me give you an example, not from today, but from the this 18th century, when Napoleon was conducting his Egyptian voyage. Do you know who he took along with his soldiers? He took along 600 artists. Do you know why? There's a very interesting reason why he did it. Because you have to understand that today, everything that you see, whether it's a particular plant that is out there, whether there's a particular furniture out there or anything, who do you think is the first people who began to document all of this before it even became a part of our history?
Yeah.
Right? It was actually documented more or less by artists. Right? And then he produced, which is one of the most famous productions of Napoleon, it is something called 6 books called The Description of Egypt. And all that was made completely by artists and sculptors. Right? So in fact, to kind of go back to what you were saying, Shilpa, we have to understand, in the world, actually, all of these disciplines are very, very interconnected.
Yeah.
It's only that in the 20th century, something happened where we said we have to work with specialization. But thankfully, we have gotten over that bad mistake. I'm sorry to be so hard, but we have gotten over that, where we have started realizing that knowledge is interconnected. Knowledge, let me take one question that I found in there. Somebody turned around and asked this question. They said, yes, you mentioned the gaming industry, but can the gaming industry take, is a 40-year career long, can you imagine a 40-year career in the gaming industry? To the person who asked that question, what I want to say is, could any of us imagine last year what happened this year?
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
But let's see who are the people who are surviving today. The people who are able to innovatively combine different systems of knowledge. Who, even in an epidemic like coronavirus that we are seeing today, the virus has made obsolete singular systems of knowledge. It's very interesting.
True.
The people who are even able to survive today, adapt, are those who have multiple systems of knowledge, right? So, yeah, today you may think that, okay, gaming industry will last another 20 years or whatever. But let's say if you are getting a skill set, which is to design environments, whether in a virtual, whether in a real, whether in a what's called a blended or an augmented reality, that's the skill set you actually have. Now you can apply it anywhere.
Yeah.
We are talking about people operating people remotely. Do you think that is not going to need graphic designers? Medicine is needing graphic designers today.
Yeah, to be able to map a virus or to be able to present medical data, everything.
The biggest, one of the largest works on which designers are working is what is called 3D imaging of anything nowadays, including the human body.
Yeah.
For people to understand it much better, to model the human body, to predict the human body, right? So that's what I'm saying. What we have got to figure out is a set of skills. That's why I'm saying, which are continuously adaptable across things, right? And that's the way for all of us to think.
Yeah, true. I think, and your point about the fact that there were specialists needed is, I think at that point of time, the Industrial Revolution triggered that. There was a need for specialists.
There was a need
but the fact that now there is so much more in terms of just everything, technology allowing everything to bleed into each other, you do require the generalist. And even to say, for example, I'll give people an example here where I say that even in a management degree, don't be too quick to be able to pick a specialization, explore each one and then see, and remember, at the end of the day, you will do every element of this. You will be managed. If you run your own business, you will manage people also, you'll manage finance also, you'll manage logistics also, you'll do everything. So at the end of the day, when you think like a designer, when you think in a broader perspective, you look at the large picture, you focus on the details, you think in a way in which there is innovation involved. And then that happens. And I think the talk that Abhishek was referring to, that I said that the gentleman says that have a childlike view on something. So I think one of the coolest things for any designer to do is go hang out in kindergartens and ask kids how to be able to fix this, because they're going to look at it without habituation in place. They're not going to look at it by saying, oh, this is how it's always done. And I think everybody here who's worried about the scope of everything, please remember, there isn't any career that's going to have scope for 40 years anymore. That's just not how it's going to function. You will change career. You'll change 6-7 times, and you won't change jobs. You'll change careers 6-7 times. So you have to have that flexibility, that agility of thought. Yeah.
The beauty, and this is said by one of the sort of most interesting design theorists, a person called David Pye. He said, thank God, everything that we make is inept, provisional, and a mashup. That's why we can go on as human beings constantly.
Yeah.
So everything that we make is problematic. That's why there's always scope for something else to happen, right? And so therefore, the mantra is really what I call this kind of a multidisciplinarity, the ability to adapt, and these broad-based kind of things, right? There are a lot of questions today, Abhishek. I don't think we can get to so many that are...
No. I mean, that's the thing. In fact, sir, that's a very good note to, give them something to think about. And one last thing I want to say is, like both you and ma'am just mentioned, I think it's most important, if I'm correct, to be flexible about the idea of something new and different coming in. Because
Absolutely.
until unless we allow ourselves, we'll still be going in circle and never, standing out. And that's the
Absolutely.
idea. Perfect.
Absolutely.
So you can share email in the chat box if you would like to, so they can
Yeah,
write to you.
I can do that. I can share my email with everyone. If they have questions and things, they can
Right.
all write to me. That's not a problem at all. So I'm just sharing my official
Perfect,
email
sir.
with
Thank you so much,
people.
sir.
Yeah.
There you go. That's my email. There are a lot of questions. I feel free to write to me. I'll always give you a quick reply with your questions. Absolutely. I'm sorry I can't get to all of them. There are quite a
No,
few.
no, I know. But
You know.
so that's the thing. I think that's what happened. Thank you so much for being here with us again. It was really we're glad to have you here with us, and I'm
Yes.
sure everyone. And thank you so much, ma'am,
Thank you.
for being here with us. And everyone, I know there are a lot of questions coming in about not just the field of design and what we spoke about, but other careers also. Please
Yes.
remember, you can always reach out to us. Even sir has given his ID. I've posted the mindless ideas well on the top. Reach out to us if you have any queries in particular, and stay safe. And I hope whatever queries you have, you will reach out, because I know there can be a lot of doubt, but don't hesitate in reaching out. Thank you so much. Thank you so much,
Thank
everyone. Have a
Yes.
good evening. Thank you,
thank you.
sir.
Thank
Thank you, ma'am.
you. Thank you so much.
Thank you
Thank you
so
for your
much.
time.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Bye-bye.
Pleasure. Thank you. Thank you so much, everyone. Appreciate it. Thank you. Reach out to us if you need any more data and information. We'll be happy to help you out. Please email us and send in the questions that we may have missed, please, and we'll be happy to help you out with that. All right. Take care, everybody. Thank you very much. Take care. All right. Thank you, Abhishek. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am.